Hey, welcome to Meditation and Spiritual Practice, our Tuesday morning group. It's really nice to see everybody. Um, so I want to, we start the book of Numbers, the Parshat Bamidbar, this week in our Torah cycle. And it's also called the Book of Numbers, or that's another name for it in Greek, or Sefer Pekudim, because the whole book opens up with God telling Moses to count the people. And what's interesting, and this has been the subject of so much commentary, is is that the word to count, se'u, also means to lift up. And so there have been numerous commentators who have said that this action of that Moses is acting to take count of all of the people that are in the tribe is looked at in many different ways. What I want to share with you is a Hasidic interpretation of the passage by Rabbi Yosef Block, or his work is called Ginzei Yosef. And first, what I'll do is I'll just read the first four verses of the book of Bamidbar, of Sefer Parshat Bamidbar, so that we can see what he does with it. It says, God spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month in the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take the sum, or Se'u et Harosh, which literally means lift up the head, but take the sum of all the community of the children of Israel, according to their families, their fathers' households, counting, which means bamispar, counting the names of the men by their heads from 20 years old and up. All in Israel are able to go forth in war, number them by their hosts, you and Aaron. So that's the simple Torah verse. Now, what Rabbi Block does with it, this is 19th, 20th century spiritual teacher. He says that the real counting, that Se'u et Rosh, lift up the Israelites' head, the real counting of Israel points upwards towards their root above. And I just want to flag that for a second in that language, towards their root above. Usually we think about root as being inward or down, but here the root is above. So just something to note. The 600,000 Israelite souls have their source in the six sphirot. These are the divine attributes that we've been counting during this week of Omer, from chesed to yesod, or from the attribute of loving kindness to relationship and foundation. The 600,000 Israelite souls have their source in the six sphirot, which is also the six directions. That's why the text says, lift up the head and not simply count. The act of Moses' counting awakened the light of that source, shining down brightly upon Israel. It raised them up to the highest rungs of awe and love, directing their hearts to the ever-present God. This is the lift up the head, raise Israel to its highest root. Now, there's a little bit more here, but before I share a little bit more of his teaching, just to say that what this lifting up the head means, what this counting means, is it's allow Israel to grow, to elevate in consciousness, to be able to experience the world and maybe themselves in a deeper way. And what's interesting here, and he's going to go further into this, is we usually think of rising in consciousness to be some way that we come out of our own physicality, this kind of duality that gets talked about the physical and the spiritual. And so this idea of raising in consciousness can almost be conceived of, especially with language like above, can be thought about as coming out of oneself and body into these greater realms of reality that are somehow separate or different from us. And we're going to challenge that idea in a moment. But what we can just hold right now is that what Moses is being commanded to do for Israel is to help them elevate their consciousness, their awareness. Okay. He then goes ahead and says, so this is lift up the head, raise Israel to its highest root. Again, that paradox between highest and root, which is more deep. And then he quotes that line that says, according to their father's household, this, which means the source of their souls, the source of their souls. So now it's not just about ancestry, according to their father's household. The spiritual take on this is that this rising in consciousness, this elevating in consciousness, is to awaken to the source of their souls. The names for a person's name represents the life force within. Thus, the light of their upper source comes to shine within them, each according to their name or essential flow of life. Okay, so now this elevating in consciousness that we're talking about is really about awakening and elevating to the source of our own souls, our own being. Not something that's out here above us, but something that is deep, deep, deep within us, that is the source of everything within us. That if we were to that the growing in consciousness is not a coming out of our own body or our self or our uniqueness, but instead it is a opening and a coming into deeper awareness of our own uniqueness, of our own soul, of our own essence, of our own root. So again, this language of above is really meant to understood maybe more as within, as deep, deep within. And what's interesting is that when we talk about oneness and unity, like what we awaken to in the Shema prayer, right? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel. Listen, those who struggle with God, which is what the word Yisrael actually means. Adonai Eloheinu, this infinite, transcendent source that pervades all of life that we call Yud He Vav He, or give the name of Adonai, but it is so beyond all of that. This is what we're pointing to when we talk about Eloheinu, our God. Our God is not something, is not a concept, something that we can package or think about, whether it's up in the sky or here or there. It's not the God that you don't believe in or I don't believe in, but instead it is this deep, infinite source, this Yud He Vav He that we cannot give name to. Adonai Echad. God is one. This infinite source is one, is a unity, is an expression of all of life that is connected together. But the word echad, one, is also translated by our sages as having the quality of yachid. Yachid and echad share the same root. And what is yachid? It's unique, right? So one, echad, can mean that everything in life is one connected whole, but it can also mean that this infinite source that we're talking about is something unique. And each one of us, as being in that divine image, is also unique. So some of what we're opening to here is, now if we take this all the way back to the original verse, Se'u et harosh, lift up their heads, meaning count them, lift up their heads, cause them to elevate in awareness, in consciousness, not in a sense that is out of themselves, but instead awaken to consciousness to the own source of our souls, our own root, our own uniqueness, our own special way that the holy presence manifests in our being. And so what that means is that if we want to, means a lot of different things, but if we want to awaken in consciousness, first and foremost, we have to be authentic. We have to be authentic. We have to honor all of our experience as it comes, as it unfolds. That's what's real for us. Even if there's things that we don't like in ourselves, ways that we might notice selfishness, or we may notice anger or reactivity or fear or any of the things that come up in, in our day-to-day lives, that all of those are expressions of our own unique self. Now, as we raise in consciousness, we begin to distinguish the different levels of our experience that unfolds. So the more that we pay attention, the more that we can hear and listen to what is it that's truly deep in me, and what is it that's a survival, fear, protection, more surface expression of who I am in that moment, but whatever it is comes and goes. It's kind of like when we have to make a decision in life, a big decision, whatever it is. And there's a lot of different voices in our head and in our being that's saying, some of it's saying you should do this, some of it's saying go ahead and do this. How do we be able to listen deeply enough to hear what's the deeper expression coming forward? What's coming more from that essence that we have that we call soul? Some people call it intuition, something that's a little bit deeper than the mind or the fears or the desires that are constantly. So when we lift up our heads, or that we elevate, and this is also as we approach the holiday of Shavuot on Tuesday nights and prepare to receive Torah, a lot of this Torah that we're asking to receive is not something that's out here, up here, but something that's deep within. That's the source of who we are. Okay, so we'll take this into some practice, some inner practice. I want to encourage you to sit in a position that you can be in for a period of time without moving around too much. And we'll start with a nigun. I die, die, I die, 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 die. I die. I die, die, die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, I die, 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 die. Part A. I die, die, I die, 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 die. I die. I. Part B. I, die, die, die. I, die, 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 die. I, die, I, die, 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 die. I, die, die. I, die, 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 die. I, die. I die, I die, die, die. I die, die, die. I la 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 die. I die, I die, 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 die. I die, die, I die, 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 die. A lie, 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 lie. I, die, die, die. I, die. Yeah, die, 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 die. I, die, 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 die. Hareini mekabel. Allah kamocha, l'reacha kamocha. Hai rai rai, hai rai 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 rai, yadai. Hai rai, hai hai rai rai rai, yai rai rai rai, yada rai 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 rai. Hai 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 rai 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 rai. Begin the practice by bringing our attention to our breath, noticing the place where the inhale reaches, enters the nostrils, the expansion of the inhale, the body on the inhale, noticing where the inhale reaches its maximum length, and then the inhale switches to an exhale, following the air out, noticing the contraction of the body on the exhale, and then paying attention to the transition point between the exhale and the inhale as the cycle of expansion with the inhale begins again, culminating in the exhale, and then paying attention to the cycle all over again. Really making a decision at the beginning of each inhale to be fully present for a complete cycle of breath, noticing the way the body expands and contracts with the inhale and the exhale. And then at the end of the exhale, making a decision again to be present again with one more cycle. Making a decision to do things that we take for granted is about bringing intentionality to our lives. We make intention and a choice every day to express our love to our loved ones. We can let it just happen by itself, but relationships are an active choice if they're to be vibrant and alive. We make a choice each day to be present for the people around us, to bring love, gentleness, strength. We can practice this with intentionally bringing our presence to the process of each breath. Notice how absolutely uncomplicated and straightforward the inhale and the exhale is. There's something pure and life-sustaining about the movement, the process of breath. It's not an accident that the Hebrew word for breath, neshima, is the same root, almost the same word as the word for soul, neshama. That somehow this simple, straightforward, life-giving and sustaining process of breath is an expression of our very essence, our very soul, our uniqueness. Our essence. As you pay attention to that cycle of breath, the inhale and the exhale, consider, open to the possibility that this life sustaining process of breath has infinite depth, is an expression of our very essence. So at the beginning of each inhale, make the decision to not only be fully present with the cycle of breath, but also open to infinite depth within each breath. That what we experience from the inhale and the exhale, moment by moment, is only the surface of its depth. So there's nothing that we're looking for with each breath in and out when we say we're open to its depth. We're just being deeply present and open that this process of breath is like being in a sacred temple. Some of us may have the experience of coming into a sacred temple, whether in real life or in our minds, one in which there's a stillness, a sense of holiness, because those who are practicing in the temple are bringing so much consciousness, awareness, and devotion to their every move and every act. See if you can bring that same kind of sacred attention to each breath. And it's a choice, every cycle of breath. I'm going to be quiet for a period of time. For these moments of practice, our attention is really all about the breath, about our essence, about the nishima, nishama reality. And if you find your attention wandering to whatever it wanders to, as soon as you notice that you're not fully present with the breath anymore, just gently come back to paying attention to that cycle of inhale and exhale. It's a simple choice to turn our attention back, to do teshuvah. This is also another layer of what it means to do teshuvah, to return our attention to what's here, what's present, what's deep.